Okay, the time is now 5:35. So we're going to go ahead and get started. This is a meeting of the Springfield City Council's Public Safety Subcommittee. I am your chairman, Councilor Orlando Ramos. I'm joined by my colleagues who are on this committee, Councilors Whitfield and Letterman, who are members of the Public Safety Subcommittee. We're also joined by Councilor Fenton, Councilor Hurst, and Councilor Walsh. I believe that's it for councilors. And we do have some special guests with us. Councilor Letterman, did you have a question? I see your
Yes,
hand.
Chairman Ramos. I'm happy to be here, but I am actually not a member of the Public Safety Subcommittee.
Oh, okay. My apologies. Is it Council? My apologies. It's Councilor Hurst and Councilor Whitfield who are members of the Public Safety Subcommittee. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that correction. We have some special guests with us this evening who are here to answer some questions and concerns that were brought up during the last public safety meeting. We welcome them as well. I will allow them to introduce themselves. So let's go around and around the room, the virtual room, and do introductions. We can start with Elder Antunes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Alder Gerald Antunes, and I'm chair of our Public Safety Committee here in New Haven.
Thank you for being with us this evening. Attorney Picula. You're on mute.
Edward Picula, City Solicitor for the City of Springfield.
Thank you. Carl Jacobson.
How you doing? Thanks for having me. Carl Jacobson, Assistant Chief for the New Haven Police Department.
Thank you, Chief. Raul De Jesus, Commissioner.
How you doing? This is Raul De Jesus, former councilman for the City of Hartford and current commissioner for the Charter Revision Commission, co-chairing that.
Thank you. And Sergeant Pelcher.
Good evening, everyone. Sergeant Pelcher from the Springfield Police Department.
Thank you, Sergeant, for joining us. And we're also joined by Paul Tawhill from Paul, do you want to introduce yourself? No, or not. We're also joined by Western Mass News and Councilor Tim Allen.
Yeah, Paul Tawhill, Northeast Public Radio. Sorry about that, Orlando.
Thank you. All right, so thanks everyone for being here this evening. There's one item on the agenda, which is the continued discussion on the gas station ordinance. It is an ordinance that was proposed a few months ago to prohibit gas stations from selling gasoline to illegal dirt bikers. The ordinance was modeled after an ordinance that was that has been on the books in other municipalities in the state of Connecticut, including two of which are represented here. So I thought it would be great for us to hear from them because we had some of my colleagues had questions about the ordinance during the last public safety meeting. As we all know, the Springfield City Council passed first step on this ordinance, and we're awaiting the passage of the final step pending after this meeting, hopefully. And so I'll turn it over to Elder Antunes, if you don't mind, just kind of giving us an overview as to how long this ordinance has been on the books in New Haven and how it's been going, and how this has affected or helped with the illegal door breaking issue in New Haven. You're on mute if you're speaking.
I'm sorry. I could say that it has been working pretty well. It's been enforced for approximately a year now, but I will defer to Assistant Chief Jacobson because his personnel are the ones out there and they can tell you what it's like and how it's working for us.
Thank you. Chief Jacobson.
Yes, thank you. So I'm sure you guys have very similar issues that we have. We were plagued with large packs of ATV dirt bike riders riding throughout the city, operating unsafely. Back in 2014, 2015, we started to set up enforcement. The riders at the time weren't riding masked up. They were just riding. We would get video. We would make identifications. We would arrest them for certain offenses. But it became very difficult in the way of getting search and seizure warrants for their bikes and other types of punishment through the courts. And we also didn't want, some of the riders were younger, so we weren't looking to make it an arrest type situation all the time. So what we did here is we basically got parts of an ordinance from New London, Connecticut, and some other areas, and we created our own ordinance. So first off, the state allows only $250 fine for an ordinance, and we knew that that was not going to prohibit these riders. They would either just pay it or not pay it. And so we made the fine a lot stiffer. So it's $1,000 first offense, $1,500 second offense, and I think it's $2,000 third offense. We also gave the municipality, our city, the ability to seize the bikes. Now, we had to do a process in Connecticut, which was called in rem. In rem, you have 30 days to file the paperwork with the court, get a notice to the person, and do it. You're moving parts. It's a lot of stuff. And at times we'd have 20 bike seizures, and we're running around trying to get this paperwork through the court, trying to set up a hearing for the person. And what we did is we kind of streamlined that through the municipality, where we can seize the bikes and we give the person a hearing very similar to our regular municipal hearings. Now, almost a year of doing this, and we haven't even had a hearing. Either the bikes are still owed money, where in that case, we're not going to pay the creditor for the bikes, so the bikes are returned, or no one's showing up for the hearings, or no one is asking for a hearing. So we've seized multiple bikes off of this, but I would say that we saw a major reduction in riding and activities just based on the ordinance itself. So far, we've only given out 12 of those $1,000 tickets, and we've seized probably 25 bikes and ATVs this year, which is down from our enforcement in the past. But we've seen a real reduction in the amount of riding. The other thing on this ordinance, we put some responsibility, and I know this is one of your sticking points, on the gas stations. We felt that the gas stations were just serving gas to illegal riders and making money off of that with no ramifications. So the ordinance states that they must post a sign, which we made the signs as a city, and my sergeants and lieutenants went to every gas station and gave them a sign, and they posted the signs. Now, failure to post a sign was $100 fine, but we didn't give out any of those fines. And then if you were to serve an illegal dirt bike or ATV that was operating from the streets onto your property, that's $100 fine. We've given out approximately 10 of those fines, which isn't a lot when you think about it. And those were because when they fuel up, and if the sergeant's done enforcement, he could probably tell you, we kind of wait till they get there and fuel up, because we're not chasing bikes, and I'm sure you guys aren't chasing bikes either. It's too dangerous. So we wait till they pull up the fuel up, and then we kind of jump out and grab them. And during that time, if they were allowed to fuel up, then first of all, every gas station in the city got one warning. So we had a form where we warned if they were serving gas, they got a warning. So we weren't just taking enforcement action without the owners knowing. We actually gave them signs, assisted them in posting the signs. Then if they were caught serving an ATV, we gave them a warning. Then we gave the $100 fine, and that fine goes to the attendant that serves them. But obviously the owners were picking up the tab on that. So it's worked out. I think it's more of, we've seen it not more of like seizing more bikes or writing more fines, but it's kind of known that if you come to New Haven and ride, these are your ramifications. So it has definitely worked out. The average person, you know, if it's a citizen of New Haven, and the first one we got was a guy riding with his son, right? Stopped at a gas station. So we seized the bikes. He owed money on the bikes. We gave him the bikes back. We wrote the ticket for the fine. He said, listen, I really didn't know about it. Came in with his son. His son apologized to us, and we gave him we didn't make him pay the fine. So it's just about, for us, it was about messaging and getting the right message out there, but also having an enforcement to kind of back it up. Now, officers can also, through their body cameras, and we'll have dashboard cameras soon, you know, if an image is caught, they can pull a case number, they can identify that person, they can send them the fine, or they can even go seize the bike on a municipal level. So it makes it easier for officers too, because it's hard to kind of get that buy-in with the officers where you're like, hey, you got to arrest them for reckless endangerment, you got to write a search warrant for the bike or whatnot. Here, it kind of streamlined the whole process. The messaging was really good with the mayor and the way we put it out to the press. And I think it's definitely been a reduction. Now, a large reduction, but now don't get me wrong. We still have riders. We still have groups of riders. We're still out there trying to do what we can and using the ordinance. It just definitely makes it easier for the officers. It makes it easier for the city. We're not trying to make money off this. We're just trying to stop the bad behavior, right? So unless you have specific questions, I think that's pretty much how I can present that.
Councilman Ramos, this is Alder Antunes. I know that the last meeting I attended with your group regarding this, there was a concern about the gas station attendants being fined as opposed to the owner. Did you resolve that? Because we do it with the attendant, whoever is there making the sale.
Yes, we did resolve that. Thank you for reminding us. So we did amend the ordinance so that the fine is given to the owner and not the attendant.
And I would say we talked about that, but we saw that most of these tickets that were given out it was picked up by the owner anyways. So.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner De Jesus, I know that you sponsored this ordinance in Hartford when you were a councilman in Hartford. Was it 4 or 5 years ago, or that the ordinance has been on the books? And so there's a little bit more history to in Hartford, and if you can tell us how that's been working out, that would be greatly appreciated.
Definitely, and thank you for the invitation. I'm glad of the success that we're having in New Haven. So I want to say the conversation started in 2013, where we're trying to figure out with now current commissioner of the police, commissioner of public safety, Chief Ravella. Now he's a commissioner of the public safety in the whole state, and we kind of had these conversations back and forth because we were trying to figure out what ways to calm down the situation of the dirt bikes. We were a part of the region. We had New Britain people. We had people from Springfield. We had people from New Haven coming up. And so we were trying to figure it out. And 2013, 2014, I started doing some research, coming up with some of the verbiage. There was some pushback. And I think I introduced it towards the end of 2014. It was a collaborative effort. The police department really stood behind it, and I think what made it go through. And then other council members joined me in this quest. At the beginning, they thought I was nuts coming up with something like this. It was kind of out of the box thinking, but I had to do something that was meaningful, and it was an added tool to the police department. I think the police department buying into it as a tool was the one that got me over with this ordinance. And then you saw other cities across the state that picked up. So it's about 2014. So about, what is that? About 7 to 8 years now that has been in effect, and it's been working. We had a mixed bags of constituencies when it came to the gas station operators. And my response during the whole time is, we don't want you to add fuel to the fire. And that's exactly what a lot of these gas stations were doing. And a lot of them just understood the economics of it. You know, these are smart business people. And they were like, wait a minute, we have 50 bikes here. The average gallon size of these dirt bikes are about 3 to 5 gallons approximately, right? But they're gobbling up the space, and other people who are coming in with your SUVs, they're coming with your trucks, and they're coming with their cars. Those are 20-gallon vehicles. They want a car. They want a pickup truck. They want an SUV to be their customer. They do not want a dirt bike. And not only that, the environmental problems that it comes in, because a lot of these kids that are coming in with dirt bikes, they want to get in and out. So now they have to have a person stay overnight, put some of that dry, it's like sand or something, to pick up some of the remaining gas that gets left in the on the floor, and it becomes an issue. And so a lot of them was like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. I don't want them here, because they create a mess with gasoline all over the place. The other problem is they make a mess, and I can't get the people who I really want here as customers. They want cars because they make more money. And then you have the other guys who did not want to do it. And like I said, to many of them, I said, listen, if a person comes to your store and tells you, listen, with this gas can, I'm going to go and burn down a house, we want you to say, no, you can't. I'm not going to sell you gas, but here you're saying the same thing. They're about to commit a crime. You know, they're creating a disturbance, and you're adding fuel to the fire. So we went through this. Eventually they got it. It came down to the economics. It's like, do you want dirt bikes, right, coming to fuel here, right? And not only that, but the great thing was that a lot of them picked up on it, because some of the guys were using credit cards. And so I guess for every swipe, for every new transaction, they charge them per transaction. So their credit card fees were getting crazy. So they was like, yeah, we want you to, we want to support you on this, because it's killing me. And so it became an economic burden. And then we say, well, listen, for those who do not want to follow through on this, we will be fining. I don't think we've had a fine yet. And I think that's true testament to our community policing plan that we have there. The relationships that we built with the gas stations and the community service officers, I always say it's probably our proudest moment. And it's really created a community environment. I'm not sure what other questions the community is saying on your end, but I'll tell you that a responsible citizen, right, usually are the attendants who are there. They don't want issues. And sometimes we only ask, if you make the call, just make the call to the police department, let police take care of the situation. If you feel unsafe, let police take care of it. And they really rely on that. And, we kind of went back and forth and kind of explained it to them, but eventually it just came down to the economics. It was like, we don't want dirt bikes or cars, or even get in my place shut down. So it came down to the economics. A good, smart person, entrepreneur or business owner would understand you much rather have this situation. And it's like, in some of these laws, they seem to be taboo, but when you really start to explain it, so it's like a bartender, right? A bartender has a person in front of them. They have a little bit too much to drink. Guess what you're supposed to do? Don't add fuel to the fire. Do not give them any more alcohol, right? So we're just telling you, be conscious of that. Not only that, but even when they started to talk about lawsuits and all this, is listen, the same way that a person leaves a bar and goes and involved in a hit and run, there's no way of telling you that you're going to be protected if you're selling this fuel to this motorcycle, and eventually is attributed that you're the conspirator by providing them fuel. Who knows? I mean, this is, so a lot of it is just a financial thing for the business. And I am proud that New Haven has picked it up and across the region. And we was in the forefront for a little bit. We were, I kind of was isolated with it. We were like, man, that's crazy. But like, when you look at history, when we were battling something, even you go to war and all that stuff, one of the best things is how quickly can you get to the situation, and can you cut the fuel? And that's exactly what we try to do. Make sure that we cut the fuel supply for the people who are in dirt bikes, and just try to figure out what was the best way to calm them down. And the great thing about that group is that we're finding, the police was finding, is that they're the same people committing other crimes. So these guys who are involved, I know the chief said something about the kid with the father and son. That's an oddity, honestly. When you see a lot of these people who are involved, they're doing these activities, they're also involved in other activities. The other one that we had issues was, and I'll give you kind of where the thought process came of, we couldn't, the police officers cannot figure out who or identify these people, especially they had no license plates, they're unregistered. So by also moving them into having to trailer in or write U-Hauls, it required to have a point of contact, meaning who rented it, right? So now we got a source. We have a trailer that most likely needs a license plate, right, to do it. And so they had to organize things. And I think that's what really started to hit the mark right there, where they had to organize, and we were able to monitor them on the web, because they had to think through things. And actually it made it a lot easier when they went to court, because when the court was asking them questions, like, wait, you planned all this out. You had a week or two to avoid from doing this, but you guys all conspired to come about. So it was a better argument to do it, because they actually have to plan in order to get this across now. So before they'll get in and they'll fuel up and off they go. And so that's a little bit there. Hopefully that helps give you some content.
It does, very helpful. Thank you for that overview. It's greatly appreciated. Before we go to the first question from Councilor Whitfield, one of the biggest concerns that was brought up during our last meeting, and if you can both answer this question, was around the safety for the gas station clerks. And there was actually a gas station owner who brought up that same concern. Whereas they were concerned that a person who is an illegal dirt biker gets refused the sale of gasoline, may act in a violent way towards the clerk. Has that been the issue in either New Haven or Hartford? Have there been any incidents like that?
If you don't mind me going first, Counselor, not in New Haven. That was a concern. We spoke to owners, and I think it's like Councilor De Jesus said, we built relationships with those owners when we handed out the signs. We didn't just leave them like, hey, you got to post your own signs. You got to do this. My people went out and spoke to them at length, talked to them, made it to the point where if there was any situations, they would actually pick up the phone and call the police. But we haven't had that situation, knock on wood, in the year that we've been doing it. So that was our concern as well. That was the owner's concerns as well. But we haven't seen that. And I think that's part of the relationship building between the police and the store owners. And I will say he hit the nail on the head. When you talk to them and tell them, listen, these guys are getting $1.20 and they're holding up spaces and they're loud and they're boisterous and they're bothering your other customers, put the signs up, turn the pumps off and make them leave. And that's what they're doing. And knock on wood, we haven't had anybody hurt. We haven't had any owners confronted, nothing like that.
Okay. Commissioner, is that the similar situation in Hartford?
I don't know the numbers, honestly. It's hard to follow. I mean, I did so many legislations after that and so much work, but I haven't heard of anything. I'm being a community activist, you see the alerts. We haven't had that. It's a blessing. Again, it goes with the community policing part of this. I think is a great, and in the way we needed something like this to bridge the gap that sometimes we've had with the small businesses and the police officers. It's a whole different conversation when the person can call a community service officer and say, listen, these guys are here. You know, they know what information the police officers need, what information they should be collecting. It's been amazing, and it's really helped the process move that much easier. And I think there's going to be some apprehension anytime you introduce something like this. But I think in the long term, you'll see that the business owners are the ones who are going to gain from this. And so I am proud of the Hartford Police Department, the way they've been able to do this community policing. Can it improve? Yes, but I think these are tools for our law enforcement officers. They need it. We don't want it. Like I always stress to them, we don't want you to be a police officer. We are hiring. We always said, you just got to go 6 months to do that type of work. They're trained professionals. We don't want you to step in and do anything that you shouldn't do. And so that's the verdict here. I mean, we are trying to do the best that we can for our constituencies. And I think if the police is buying into it and they go out and talk to the business owners, understand that this is going to be a partnership, it's going to be great. I mean, I know that now community service officers do have cell phones where they do talk. They contact them directly, so we won't tie up our 911 lines and stuff like that. So we got direct communication with the community service officers and some lieutenants. So it's a great, it feels like a family now. It really does. It went from like, what are you doing? Because it's so, it can seem so overwhelming, but then when you see the benefit, it's amazing. So.
Thank you. Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my questions, I have a couple. But the first one is, how many tickets have been given to the owners? I guess New Haven's only been doing this for a year, so we'll start there.
Yeah, so the gas station tickets, I have about 10. Like I said, very few in the last year.
And so if I think through the process, so you don't serve someone, you turn off the gas, they get maybe upset, or they go to try to find out what's happening at the gas pump. So they go into the gas station, ask the attendant, and the attendant, well, your bike isn't on a bed, whatever it's supposed to be on, so we can't serve you gas. And they nicely just walk out and leave. These are people that have offenses already. They probably people that may be toting guns. So although this haven't happened in your neck of the woods, we have a gun violence problem here in the city of Springfield. And so my concern is it could go bad. And if it does, that's one incident or one life that we could have possibly saved by not putting that level of, to me, it's still in harm's way if the attendant has to tell somebody, we're not going to give you gas, even if the signs are up. You got these young, hard-headed repeat offenders or offenders out there that aren't going to particularly want to hear that. And then you call the police. Is this one of the emergencies that the police are going to like speed over there for, get there in time to prevent what could happen? I don't know. I am really just not really convinced. The economic advantage, I hear it, I see it, but when you're pumping like 3 gallons of gas, it takes about 5 minutes of that. And the vehicle leaves, I understand the noise better than I understand the economic advantage of an SUV leaving, because somebody is taking 5 minutes, especially when we have one on almost every corner in the city of Springfield. But I don't know. I'm not convinced that this would not, we have people sticking up gas stations and banks in the area a lot. So I would still be concerned with the safety of the attendant telling someone, we're not going to give you gas, even if the sign is up. Maybe they missed the sign or whatever. I'm just not convinced.
I understand that.
If I may.
Oh, go ahead, sir.
Sorry, Chief. Let me tell you something. We can't add fuel to the fire. These guys are reckless. They're causing accidents. A lot of them are not insured. So when they crash into a vehicle, they're not insured. They're so we're saying that we're going to save lives with this, right? We're literally going to save lives with this. I understand the attendant's responsibility. He has to say no to a lot of things during the day. We as people get said no a lot of the times. And what I'm saying is this ordinance has the ability to save a life. I don't feel that this will be something that will put that person life in danger, if he feels forced to do whatever he has to do, that we'll just be stacking up the charges now, right? So if he has to open up, right, if he feels that he had to provide gas for these people under coercion, that's fine. Let him do it, right? So now we know that they intimidated the poor kid or guy or gal, whoever was in that gas station. We'll keep piling up the charges here. So if he or she feels that they have to do it, have them do it. We don't want you to risk your life. We're just saying you can save a life, right? We're going to protect your life. And most of the time, right, we have citywide cameras now. So by the time they get to that gas station, we know that they're there. So they are police most likely is going to be unmarked vehicles. That's the first people that usually show up now. They're sending unmarked because what they're trying to just collect as much intelligence as possible. So you may not see it, and this is where we shouldn't be disclosing too much of this, but this is where the relationship between the police department and the attendants and the business owners will get certain information of key things that they need to do when dealing with these people who are driving these dirt bikes. There is a conversation, what to look for, what to identify, when to know, right? They'll probably get a text, we're here. They'll probably let the attendant know, listen, we're outside, don't worry, take care of it or whatever. So there's some communication during this whole time. This is not just like, you go ahead and call 911 because we do not want attendants occupying the 911 emergency calling system. So there is a direct communication there. We've actually recently, I have not seen that into play, but we're gonna have drones also helping with that aspect. So what I'm saying is, I think this order can save lives. I think we can do it safely, and that it will require some communication and some training for those attendants to deal with it. I think, implementing it with the community and creating a relationship between these business owners, it's going to be only helpful for the whole community. So, I understand the attendance part, but we understand that we also want to protect that attendance conscience. Imagine he or she is the one that has last contact with that person, right? And this person goes and hit somebody or injure somebody for the life. They'd be like, man, I wish I would not have sold that gasoline to that person because I could have saved that life, right? So it may not have to be physical, but it could be mental torture for that person who was the last person to sell that fuel to that person. Just imagine the agony that person would feel. So it goes both ways. It goes both ways.
No, and I see your point, and I didn't understand that they weren't gonna have to call 911 because my next question was gonna be to Sergeant Pelcher, like how high on the emergency list would this call fall? Like, I didn't know there was gonna be a direct relationship to the attendant, and so when we talk about saving lives, you could fill up your tank and still get in an accident, and it's no guilt there for like what can happen. It's a lot of what ifs that can happen, and I know I put some out there, but I'm trying to think of not putting additional people in harm's way. I want the dirt bikes off the street just like everyone else. I really do, but I'm just trying to think of putting the attendants or the workers in harm's way to get the dirt bikes off the street. Doesn't seem like the best logical reasoning to me. But since you said it wouldn't be like a 911 call and there will be like some direct contact, is that right, Sergeant Pelcher? Is that your understanding of it?
Well, that's certainly an interesting game plan. I'd be interested in talking to the commissioner after, post meeting, maybe tomorrow, to get more details about that. But as far as I'm concerned, this is the first I'm hearing about direct numbers. So if there's any attendants that need help in the city of Springfield, I'm thinking at this point it's a 911 call. And to answer your question about a response, it's all going to be based on the details of the caller. Are they just being disgruntled? Are they being mouthy? Well, that's not going to create the response. Hey, he's kicking things over. He's threatening me. He's using, they're doing something destructive. That's going to certainly warrant a quicker response.
Now, Sergeant Pelcher, is that something that we can do through C3? However, I mean, C3 police officers do give out their cell phone number to business owners. So that's something that we could sort of run through C3.
I think it's certainly feasible. It's just, the question was, do we have something in place like that? The answer is no, but it's certainly a feasible game plan to go forward with.
And
Chief
Councilor
Jacobs.
Walsh, I do see, I'm sorry, Sergeant Pelcher. Councilor Walsh, I see your hand raised, but I just wanted to conclude with, I'm the co-chair of the Mason Square C3, and I know that they only attend certain areas of the community, and I'm pretty sure they can go other places, but their locations are, directly somewhere. And we got gas stations throughout the city. And so I don't know that that would be the best resolve for this particular ordinance or this particular instance. Well, of course, if it's happening in their direct location or whatever, yes, but we got gas stations everywhere. And so I don't know if that would be like the answer. And I would definitely want to know if we could put in that system where there will be some direct communications with officers where they're not really alerting the disgruntled person on, the police call or whatever.
Thank you, Counselor. Before we go to Counselor Walsh, Chief Jacobson, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I just would say that based on that same question, it would be the level of violence. So yes, it wouldn't be a 911 response for, hey, they're a little unruly, but he pointed a gun at me and told me to turn the pumps on. It's just like any other robbery we have in the city. We tell and we try to train our clerks and we talk to our business owners. Someone sticks a gun in your face, give them what they want. We don't want you to get hurt. Money is money, and we will follow up with that. But what I'm saying from our experience, we haven't even had an argument. They turn the pumps off, they may kick a barrel over and they take off because they know, well, if I'm not getting the gas, the cops are probably coming at some point. And we've been able to instill that in them. So I totally understand what you're saying. We thought we were going to have the same thing. And, I would tell you that New Haven, we're in the same boat. We have a lot of homicides, a lot of shootings. We may even have more than you, I think. But we have not seen this happen or turn into a violent confrontation. And we're lucky, but we also have signs everywhere. The clerk locks the door and points to the sign, says, sorry, I can't serve you. Now, if someone pulled out a gun, we tell the clerk, turn the pumps on. $1.20 worth of gas is not worth your life. But we also do have the direct communication that the commissioner spoke about. Here's the issue, though. We have certain areas where they like to ride more than others. So we're in more direct contact with those gas stations. You can check from your data where the bikes are riding, where they're going to end up more often. There's 2 major parks in our city. They like to tear through the parks, tear up the parks. And there's really, I've identified 4 gas stations that are problem gas stations with ATVs. I know it's a pain in the butt. We're dealing with homicides and shootings, but we have to take care of this too. So use your data just like homicides and shootings, and you can narrow it down where you're not having to deal with every gas station in the city. I mean, of course, when you roll it out, you deal with them all, get them all the signs, but then you can go back and go with the data.
Thank you, Chief.
Chair Ramos?
Yes.
Alder Antunes, if I could add, every one of our police officers in the city of New Haven has a cell phone. They give out the numbers to many of the people in their neighborhoods so that they're able to call them when they need it. Community policing is important in this city. And earlier I heard someone made a comment regarding bartenders. And Ms. Whitfield, if you look at it in the same respect, the bartender has a person who has too many drinks come in and want another drink. It's the same thing. They have to tell them, no, I can't serve you. And now can you get in the same situation, and even worse with a drunk person? If they have a weapon on them or they want to get violent, it's even worse. So you have to look at it as there has to be change. There's got to be some adjustments in the way people do business. I mean, this is something that we're kind of forced into, and it's more important for us to have that safety and that protective aspect of it, as opposed to someone getting hurt. Remember, these people who are on these dirt bikes, they're driving recklessly. It's not like you driving down the street and happen to get into an accident where somebody gets hurt. They are driving recklessly, which lends itself to serious things happening. Thank you,
sir. Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Councilor Ramos, and thanks for having this this meeting. You know, I share some of the same concerns as Councilor Whitfield, and I know when this was first introduced, I was very concerned about the reaction of our gas station owners, and particularly the burden that would be placed on the attendants. I find it very hard to believe that people don't get mad, and as you just said, they're reckless, that they're not difficult when they're asked to abide by this. But my question really is for Springfield. I mean, in order for this to be successful, the Springfield Police Department is going to have to be on top of this and support it and do what they're doing in New Haven and Hartford. And do we know that? I mean, do all of our guys and women have cell phones? And can you comment, or do you have to wait to comment, Sergeant, on whether or not this would be successful in Springfield? Because the community policing, to me, seems to be the key point of it.
Well, our average uniformed patrol officers do not have department issued cell phones. The C3 and some of the other specialized units do. I would say that, you know, hearing from what, Deputy Chief Jacobson and Commissioner DeJesus have said, if it's working there, I don't see why it wouldn't work in Springfield.
And I would add, if I could add to that, there's also, we have two ways to contact the police department, and you reach dispatch. We call it 911, and we also have the 757-4000. So if that person wants to contact directly dispatch, right? They can't get in contact with the police officer or whomever was assigned to that. They will also call that number, that 757-4000, so that we won't tie up the 911. And it all has to do with congestion. We don't want to make sure, because right now our city, actually this year, we're in a historic homicide rate. I think we're about 29 homicides thus far, and it is important that we get priority to that, right? So we have always had that second line where you can bypass the 911 for not as important type of calls, right? Not life threatening or anything. So so that's the second layer to that 757-4000. Take you straight to dispatch, but it will be handled differently. And then you have the 911, and then you also have your community service officers who would have contact with them, because the community service officers are the ones that we have NRZs, community meetings, and community groups. And most of the time, the same people who are going to these community meetings are the ones who are reporting it, because they're the ones who are part of the block watches and all that good stuff. So it kind of creates some synergy between the community groups, the police department, and the business sector. And it actually sometimes may be the first time that you have all those people getting together. And when you get people together, they'll start to solve the issue together. And I think that's what it takes. It takes a community in order to make this happen. The community policing is important, but it's also important that we have responsible business owners in the community. So it synergizes things. So I understand the apprehensions, but let me tell you, we had them in Hartford. We'll probably have them in every city that wants to implement them. But if there's any like bodegas are probably the most at risk when it comes to this, because the reason I say is that they don't have no plexiglass. So bodegas, I would be nervous. And if they were selling, sometimes they used to selling cigarettes. There's sometimes fights because nobody wants to sell them an illegal cigarette. They want to sell individuals. Yeah, that happens. But here we have, gas stations. Usually gas stations have their plexiglasses, and they're kind of more prepared than any other business in any municipality. If you go around the gas stations in your neighborhood, you're most likely going to meet after hours. They're going to have to talk to you from the outside, or they're going to be behind some type of protective plexiglass. So, and that's the majority of the gas stations, at least in our area, have some type of protection if that's a concern. Does that change anything? No. The perception of you thinking that a person could get in trouble? No. But what I'm saying is that, again, this can save lives, and hopefully you guys would put a measure, if not the same or similar, but you have to amend it and make it work to your municipality. This is not cookie cutter. What works for Hartford, what works for New Haven may not work for you guys. The cell phone idea may not be the key for you, right? It may not be the solution for you. It may be another way. So you have to adapt it to your environment. And so don't feel that you're restrained to do it the same way we did it. Make it work for you guys. Personalize it. Make it yours.
Councilor Walsh, did you have a follow-up? You're on mute.
Do you find that this question is seasonal, the problem? Do you see it's, or do you have it all year long?
For us in New Haven, it's mostly seasonal. Obviously, they're not riding ATVs and dirt bikes and doing stunts on them in the snow, but we have had, that December 40 degree day at the end of December. All of a sudden we hear them come out, you know what I mean? But we were a city that had routinely 3 to 5 days a week riding, and we don't have that anymore. And the only thing we changed was the ordinance. I mean, that's the biggest thing I can tell you. Like the commissioner said, adapt it to what fits for you guys, but it was definitely a big change when we started doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Letterman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just 2 quick questions, 1 point relative to the ordinance. First question being, for the cities that have had it implemented for some time, what's been the effect over time in terms of actual calls to dispatch for folks trying to fuel up? In other words, I would suspect that over time, folks would just kind of come to know that you really could not do it anymore, and they would stop trying in those particular areas. Is that the case? Or do you still get people trying to fuel up regularly now, 3-4 years later?
So I can only speak from my experience, and what I've seen is, I think these go by waves. So you get one generation, for example, anyone from like 18 to 20, and then there's another generation that's 16 or 17 who's looking at their bigger brother, their cousin, their uncle doing the same thing, and they want to repeat it. And so what I think this has done is made it so difficult that the people who want to continue that lineage, because it is a seasonal thing. So every summer, so on and so forth. Once it started getting warmer, I would say, warmer being 50 degrees or above, usually people try to go out. It stopped that generation from moving forward. Usually they'll grow out of it. And then there's another generation that follows. And so I think is affected that next generation that wants to do, well, my uncle got arrested, or he can't, we know that we can't do it. So it kind of, it takes a while to implement, but once it starts to go into effect, people start to know the difference. And I think that's what you need, right? So a lot of these guys are young, nothing could happen to them, and they're driving crazies. But I feel that what we've seen is that you see the numbers. The chief has the numbers. I don't have those numbers, but I can tell you, you definitely see the amount of people that used to do it has definitely decreased. It's difficult. It's very difficult to do it, and so I think yes, the numbers have gone down. I'm pretty sure you can request numbers. I can see if I can request some numbers, but the numbers are going to go down anytime you make it difficult, right? So it's like video cameras. You can put them up. Do they deter crime? Maybe, right? Maybe can say, right? But what it's going to do is probably going to collect information, and it's probably going to make it, just going to get that split second to that person and say, well, there's a camera there. I may go somewhere else. And that's what you want to do, deter it. So most of the time, what you want to do is deter crime. give them a chance of saying, damn, I owe like $2,000 on the dirt bike. It's going to cost me $1,000. So I'm going to be into this dirt bike $3,000. If I try to sell it, they're only going to give me $1,500. So there's an economic component too. It's like they can't afford a fine because they're never going to, they're going to be in debt and they can't get rid of the dirt bike. So you got to make it an economic disadvantage for that person who owns the dirt bike too. So it all plays into this because people who are committing crimes have to think it through. And these are pretty smart people because they pretty much most of the time outsmart police. But that's what you're trying to do. It's like putting up a camera and saying, listen, be careful. If you get caught, we're going to do it. It's a tool. It really is a tool to hopefully deter people to do it. And it has been proven that it deters.
Yeah, and I know we're not as long as the commissioner, been up as long as the commissioner, but I would say the first 6 months I ran the dispatch numbers and we had something like a 60% decrease in calls for service, not directly from the gas stations, but overall calls for service in the city for dirt bikes. And honestly, when you just brought that up, I'm going to run it tomorrow because I'm curious what the second 6 months has brought us, so we definitely saw the decrease. And, one of the big things, the first weekend we did it, we saw social media guys posting, don't go to New Haven. I got $1,000 fine and I lost my bike. And one guy said, yeah, but you didn't get arrested. He goes, I don't care. I lost my bike and I got $1,000 fine. And that social media element is great. Even if you do it as a police department, post it. We have our own Twitter and Facebook and everything, and we post it on there. We show the bikes. And but we started getting the riders saying, don't go to New Haven. And unfortunately, there were times in Connecticut where we pushed it from us to Hartford to Bridgeport to for a while. They had it at the in different areas. And then that police department brought a helicopter in and then they pushed it back. But I mean, I think to slow and steady and keeping it going, making it easier for the police officers, better relationships with the gas stations, and even the riders. Definitely our citizens know don't ride in our city. So they're not saying, hey, Joey from New York, come on down. We're going to ride through the streets in New Haven, which was kind of allowed before. And now it's not, right? So we're definitely doing better with it. First 6 months, 60% decrease in calls for service.
Sure. And that's what I was kind of curious about was if a version of this was implemented, I think you'd have to see an investment of police resources, especially in the beginning, to build that trust with the store clerks. And as far as the cell phones go, I mean, I think the community service officers that I think Hartford referenced, those sound kind of closest to our neighborhood ordinance officers who do carry cell phones and do give out their number, although they work kind of traditionally during the day, depending on assignments. So just something to consider as we continue the dialogue around it of that initial investment of resources.
I believe Chief Jacobson, wasn't there a component also added to the sales of the mini bikes at the different facilities that sell the bikes?
Yeah, we also, you're required to post a sign saying that you cannot ride dirt bikes and ATVs on the streets of New Haven. So we went to, there was only 2 places that sold, but we went to them, we gave them the signs, they posted the signs, and we even sent some like undercovers, so to speak, in there to see how they talked about it. And the sales clerk's like, yeah, I'm going to sell you the bike, but don't ride it on the streets because they'll give you $1,000 fine and take your bike. So that was good messaging too, so that was another component that seemed to help, but we haven't fined anybody for that yet because that requirement is once it's posted, as long as you leave it posted, that's the only requirement.
Thank you. Thank you for that. The time is now 6:27. I typically like to keep these subcommittee meetings to an hour. We have one more hand from Councilor Hurst, and then if we have time, we'll take more questions, but I'll turn it over to Councilor Hurst.
Thank you, Chairman Ramos. Quick question. What were the fines again in both Hartford and New Haven?
I'll go first. Ours for riding in the street, the rider got $1,000 first offense, 1,500 second offense, 2,000 third offense. Gas station, first offense was a warning. You could not be cited for your first offense as a gas station. Second and subsequent offense is $100 each time. It does not go up. And then for not posting at a place of sale for the off-road vehicles, that was only $100. If you didn't post, we haven't given out any of those.
Thank you.
Hartford, we did it at the bare minimum, and I think our charter only allowed us about $100. And so that was suffice to start to deter things. I mean, we wanted to go big, but we couldn't. Actually, I'm in the charter revision committee now. So maybe we can increase it, but I think it's been effective with that amount. That dollar amount was effective enough for us. And you guys would have to decide on your end, you know, what is your limit and what would be more practical for you guys. But I think you know, $100 for us was sufficed. And so yeah, so it wasn't much. It wasn't much.
Got it. And where are we at, Councilor Ramos, here in Springfield?
Are you referring to the fine associated with the sale of gasoline, or the fine?
No, with dirt bikes, with the dirt bikes.
Yes. So the illegal operation of a dirt bike, a municipal fine is $300. We were told by Attorney Pakula that was the max that we can do.
Yeah. And have we got the go ahead to impound the actual dirt bikes?
That is still working its way.
Is that still pending in the state?
It's still pending, yes.
Okay. And is impounding the dirt bikes still something that is happening in Hartford? Is that already in motion and in New Haven?
Yeah, so I would say we had so many. You can go on social media, and a local company who has this big crusher. I think they use it for cars, and we put that on social media. The current administration put up that on the media, and they're crushing the dirt bikes. I mean, there's that many that they have to just, you know, crush them, and so that really was a good video for online. It really got spread. It was like wildfire, and I tell you, it is painful for whoever is an enthusiast to see those motorcycles, see their motorcycles being crushed that way. So I mean, just like they've crushed so many, you know, parties, cars, and been, you know, they wreaked havoc. So we got the upper hand, and we were able to make sure that that bike will never go back in the streets of the city or anywhere in the state.
Yeah, we also seized the bikes. We streamlined it where it's a municipal seizure instead of a state seizure, which the state now allows. The state also allowed us to go from $250, which is the minimum fine, to go to $1,000 based on dirt bikes and ATVs alone. So in the state of Connecticut, you're allowed to go up to $1,000, well, up and above $1,000. Now, I did want to crush them. I will tell you, I'm envious. I wish we could have crushed them, but our administration didn't want to do that. But what we did do was something pretty cool too. We gave a large portion. I think we gave 60 to 70 dirt bikes and ATVs to an organization that sends them to like the Virgin Islands and different areas where they can be used by people that need them, whether it be the Red Cross or whoever. So that's what we've been doing. We're hesitant to sell them because even if we sent them to an auction in New Jersey, I just feel like they find their way back to New Haven. So we've been giving them away to charitable organizations that send them overseas. So I think we're going to continue that unless the mayor changes someday, then I'll get to crush them someday. But it is a good advertisement to crush them the first time around.
Thank you. And so, Mr. Chair, I'm really just trying to wrap my head around what is causing the reduction of folks riding dirt bikes in these other cities. And so it's interesting to hear about the $1,000 fine because ours is only at $300. It's interesting to hear about the impounding. which we're not there yet. I guess I'm less sold on the impact of the reduction being attributed to the actual stores selling gas. I don't know if that can be parsed out, or if you all parse it out and you're able to get that type of information. It seems to me as though they would just find another way to gas up. But you know, I think it's an interesting discussion, and we probably should be looking at all the avenues. You know, it'd be nice if there was one sort of smoking gun that worked. But it sounds like, listening to you all, it's a variety of different things, and it depends on the municipality. So I appreciate you all coming before us and sharing.
Thank you, Councilor, for that.
And I know you guys want to wrap it up, but the things that are necessary there. You need a motorcycle, you need an operator, and for that motorcycle, you need fuel. So you take any of those out of the equation, you're going to start to solve the trouble. In any war, right? In any war, if you want to call this, war against the quality of life of a city, in any war, right, is how quickly can you get their transport, but also the fuel. If you don't have fuel, you can't keep them going. And making it that much more difficult for a person to attain something that is a necessity, right? We as humans, we need food. You cut the food supply, we're going to be struggling, right? For a motorcycle, you cut the fuel supply, right? They need fuel. You make it that much harder for them to acquire it. It's going to be difficult. So what you're doing is, can they get it somewhere else? Yes, right? The thing is, we're trying to deter it. We're trying to make sure that they have that millisecond, right? They get that gut feeling like, oh, I don't want to do it. That's all we're trying to do. And let me tell you, a lot of people, it works. And so that's part of, what public safety is about, deterring crime. Can we stop it? No. Can we deter it? Yes. With enough tools on the belt, just like a police officer, he has a bunch of tools around his waist. He doesn't use them all, but he may not use them for a whole year. But next year, he may use that mace or whatever he has to use in that toolbox. That's what a carpenter does. He needs as many tools as possible to combat it. A doctor, the same thing. So we're just trying to provide the people who are out there, protecting us, allowing them a second tool or a third tool or fourth tool, whatever it is, so that they can make their job easier, right? So we can reallocate that resources. Once numbers are down, the motorcycles are that we can refocus them into other things in the community that could be more important. So that's what we're trying to do here.
Thank you for that overview. And Councilor Hurst, thank you again for bringing that point, because I think the key word that I've been using through this whole process is tool. This is just another tool for the police department. I know that it's not going to resolve the issue. It's not going to take all dirt bikes off the road. But just because, we're not going to take all dirt bikes off the road with this ordinance doesn't mean that we should not proceed with it. This is a tool that can help reduce the amount of bikes that are out there on the road, and potentially, like we heard earlier, save lives, which is the goal here. So with that said, I don't see any more hands up, and so I will close the meeting. Thank you. I'm very grateful to Commissioner De Jesus, Alder Antunes, and Deputy Chief Jacobson for taking the time out of your day to join us for this meeting. Very grateful to all of you. Thank you for the input, and it's greatly appreciated.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Sergeant Pelcher, as well.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck.
Thanks.